Please lie on your back. Notice how you feel yourself with the floor now. How you feel the floor. How you feel the contact, sense the contact of your back with the floor. Which is a reflection of how you're able to distribute yourself, your weight, your structure to the ground right now. Gently roll your head a little to the right and a little to the left. And just notice what your idea of little is. So in ATM, you're hearing instructions. And in all our language, every one of us has through our experience a different association with different words. And many of us have scotomas, is what Moshe calls them, blind spots, just places that we can't see or hear ourselves. So we keep doing the same thing again and again and again. So roll your head a little and notice, what could you notice about that? Your breathing, the quality or the ease of the movement. When you roll your head a little, does it change the speed that you choose? And does it make any difference to what you can attend to through yourself? And now, without hurting yourself, make the movement larger, quicker. Now you'll probably notice different things, but notice, is it easier to sense yourself when the movement's larger? So now even the large movements I see aren't as large as some were doing before. So go as far as you can. And what do you learn about yourself? You learn you can go that far, and maybe tomorrow you'll learn that you can hurt yourself. But and then make it smaller and smaller till the movement of your head comes to rest. Most of us still live in a culture that more is better, and it's very challenging. Although I was very excited and pleased to hear some of the stories and experiences people between segments of what they'd learnt. And how surprising to them it was, some of the things that they learnt. Please roll yourself up to sitting. Now I haven't said how to sit, so how do you sit? If I say roll yourself up to sitting, you think maybe it's a comfortable way of sitting, a right way of sitting? But how would you sit to make it easiest possible action to bring your right hand behind your head to hold on to your left cheek? So that means you're going to try doing that action in several different configurations of your leg and see if you can notice the differences. It means when you change your legs, take your hand away. Because otherwise, you've not noticed if bringing your hand into that configuration is easier one way or another. Maybe you'll feel somewhere a little tighter, but maybe not. That could slip your attention. So your hand is as much as possible behind your head without straining. So every configuration of sitting affords something different. So bring yourself up to standing. If it's comfortable for you, you can still close your eyes. And in standing, bring your hand behind the back, your right hand behind the back of your head to hold on to your left cheek in a way that you can feel if it influences your ribs, the shape of your spine, where your weight is on your feet. So when you bring your right hand behind, do your ribs on one side open up and the ribs on the other side close down? What happens to your shoulders? Does one shoulder come a little more forwards? Does one shoulder go a little more backwards? And is it any easier for you to notice how this is in standing? Because you've got more degrees of freedom in a certain way than when you're on the floor. More possibilities. You're not... more possibilities through your hip joints, your knees, your ankles. It's a more familiar position too, to be in. So could you try shortening the ribs on your right side? So that means making a shape with your... That's it, you've all got it, so I don't need to explain it too much. Yes? And then bring your hand up. Now, do you feel the increase in effort sooner? Okay. And then try lengthening the ribs on that side before you bring your hand around. So what difference does changing the shape of your spine make to how your ribs, sternum, and shoulder girdle can be part of the action to bring your right hand to your left cheek? So there's so many possibilities here. You know, do you keep your weight on your right foot and lengthen on your right side? Do you keep your weight on your right foot and shorten on your right side? And does your jaw need to be tight? Could you be ready to smile as you do this? Maybe that changes something in how open your perception is to noticing a difference. Do you put your weight onto your left foot and open the right side of your ribs, length, and close the left, or vice versa? Okay, please come back to the floor. And choose a position, sitting. Sitting. And bring your right arm behind your head to hold on to the left side of your face. So, anything but legs straight forwards now. And you'll find, because that limits certain possibilities, you're going to find how to organize your legs. Put your left hand on the floor in front of you, right hand behind your head, holding onto your left cheek, and slowly begin to lower your elbow and head towards the floor in front of you. And come back. So some people have got the soles of the feet together and the knees open to the side. Try that way. Soles of the feet together in front of you and knees open to the side. Just pay attention to your breathing, feeling in your back. Okay, and now could you put both feet to the left, knees to the right, so your right foot, sole of your right foot is touching your left knee. Bring your left hand to the floor somewhere in front of you. So it's the other way around. The sole of your right foot is touching your left knee. Just see what it's like to bring your head down towards the floor and then come back. And then try the other configuration of your legs. And there is no right answer, because it's going to depend on your organization, your history, if you've had any injuries or not. But there are some configurations that potentiate the possibility of achieving an easier outcome where you're not working against yourself. Okay, take your hand off your head, rest in sitting, or lying if you need to. And then come back to sitting. This time put your feet to the left, your knees to the right, in this side sitting position. And slowly bring your right hand behind your head to the left side of your face. Now, question, check in. Did you go slow enough that you could feel what happened with your ribs on the right side, the shape of your spine? Whether one shoulder moved forwards or backwards, whether your sternum was involved. What happens to the weight on your pelvis? Does it move more onto the right buttock or more onto the left buttock? Now put the left hand on the floor in front of you. Keep your right hand behind your head. Left hand on the floor in front of you. Or it could be on your leg. You could lean on your leg, your lower leg, on your ankle. That's only if it's not easy. So, not you, Yin. Not. If it's easy, put your left hand on the floor in front of you. If it's not easy, and then you're going to find out where's the position where it helps you most. If it's not easy, you could just try leaning there or leaning there. You know, try different places. And begin to lower your head towards the floor in front of you and just go to a comfortable distance away from the floor where you feel, I must be hungry, I was going to say food. Stay at that distance and begin to move your elbow right and left. And just notice how much of your back is involved in this action. Is your pelvis helping your elbow to move right and left? Okay, pause in sitting. Now some of you may be sinking down lower and it's getting easier to be lower. But then you have the appeal of, well, Stephanie said the floor, I must be going to the floor. So when I say take your lower your elbow to a height that feels really easy, can you identify what criteria you're using to know that that's the place to hang out? Because now I'm going to ask you to do something else in that place. So bring your right hand to the left side of your face, or your chin, wherever you can. lower your head and elbow, somewhere that's comfortable. Not too low. And from there, can you begin to move your elbow a little forwards and a little upwards, and then come back. And feel what happens through the length of your back. And maybe you'd like to explore different angles, so you could turn a little bit to the right and then explore this forwards and upwards. It's kind of like a scooping action. You don't need to erect yourself all the way back, but you lower yourself down to a comfortable place, stay there, and then from there, direct the eye on an eye as if it was drawn on the tip of your elbow, forwards and upwards in the direction of the ceiling, and then backwards and downwards. So you're doing a scooping action with your elbow and self through space, and listening to what's happening through your back. When you do this, are you moving from your hips through the length of your spine? You feel your pressure of your legs on the floor changing? Okay, come back up to sitting. Pause in sitting for a moment. Take your hand off your head. Maybe you don't need instruction to take your hand off your head. How many people are very happy to get their hand off their head? About half. Yep. Yeah, we don't go around doing, arm behind the head very often. Come back to sitting. Same way. Feet to the left, knees to the right. Bring your right arm around the back of your head so that your hand holds on to the left side of your face or your jaw or somewhere around there. Put your left hand on the floor in front of you, and then begin to sweep your left hand on the floor forwards a little bit as you bring your head and your elbow down towards the ground. So you can turn your head to look a little under, as if you wanted to look under your left armpit, so that your right shoulder comes more and more towards the floor. And then come back. But think of your left hand sliding on the floor, sweeping around to the right, while your head goes lower and lower, and your pelvis changes its configuration. The pressure moves on your pelvis, and your pelvis moves in an arc in the direction of lying down to your side and onto your back. So you go a little bit, you come back. And go a little bit and come back. Feel how you're giving your weight to the ground. You're sliding, sweeping, folding, getting smaller as you go down and around, and then unfolding when you're on your back. Go slow and learn how to do it. Moshe would say, well, you've never done it in your life up to now, so you can live without it. So what can you learn about the pathway you take, about how you're using yourself, about perhaps where you're making unnecessary efforts that are your scotomas, your blind spots. You have difficulty expanding your attention to include those places, so you keep on enacting a way of stiffening or a way of using yourself that inhibits the possibility of getting it easier right now. But once you become aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it, and then you open the pathway to relearning, using your sensing, your thinking, your moving to guide yourself in actions in a way that gives you more choice, more possibilities. So maybe it's easier to go down to the other side. So can you come back up to sitting? Actually, rest on your back for a moment. Roll your head a little bit, right and left. Do you know if you have a preferred direction? So in some places, it's easier for us to tell, oh, I like this way. This way feels a bit easier. And in other places where our habits have been entrenched for so long and there's unnecessary work going on in our nervous system to keep the musculature and the joints in a particular relationship, it can be more challenging to sense, to make distinctions. Please roll yourself up to sitting. Bring your right hand behind your head, from behind your head. Hold on to your cheek or jaw. Now, if you wanted to go down towards the left, to bring your head forwards and then start to roll around yourself to the left, how would you need to organize your legs? Is there a way that would make it easier? How would you use your left hand? And can you maintain this idea of your orientation? So where your head was when you were lying on your back is where your head will be when you roll down from sitting on your back, holding your head like this. So remember where your head was when you were lying on your back. Which closer to which wall of the room. So when you roll up, down to sitting, down to lying, from sitting, holding your head with your right hand, you're looking to return to that orientation. Now we're trying going down to the left, because maybe it's easier. And finding what you need to do with your legs. So do you like this direction better or less? So you start going forwards. There are certain constraints that are set by our articulations about the possibilities. Now we can do many other things, and you can explore, but the constraints are embedded to evoke the possibility of moving in a certain way, which is why it feels difficult. So you begin by taking your elbow towards the floor in front of you, but you don't keep going forwards, because you're going to take your elbow towards more your left knee, perhaps. And your left arm is finding how and where to put that, when to move it, when to adjust it. Can it slide on the floor? And the moments that get most interesting, in a kind of way, are the moments where you bang the floor, or you feel you have to push the floor, or lift off the floor. That's where something in your organization is not available to contribute to the action in a way that the human skeleton can move. So when you're on your back, can your legs be long? And then you could roll again to the... Actually, keep rolling next time. So you roll from sitting to the left, cross your back, lengthened on your back. Your left arm will be overhead. And then can you keep going and go around to the right? Now, if you've got a coffee cup there, it's going to possibly, in your memory somewhere, inhibit your taking your arm in a certain direction. Maybe it's the coffee cup, maybe it's not. But I'm just going to move your coffee cup. So you're starting sitting, lowering your head forwards and then moving your elbow in the direction of your left knee. And at a certain point, if your pelvis keeps moving in a continuous arc and your legs are soft, your legs will lengthen out. So you're rolling and folding and then unfolding on your back and then rolling, taking your head with you and rolling to the right and coming up, finding if it's possible to come back up to sitting. Thinking of your neighbor, watching what direction they're going in so you don't get any head injuries. If you feel like you haven't got enough room, there's more space. Okay, please rest on your back. So a few of you, it was possible and easy right from the very beginning, which is often the way. in ATM classes. And for other people, it still feels impossible. And then there's everybody in between. And hopefully, through the training program, you'll have the experience of being the person who it's really easy for, and the experience of it being impossible. Gently roll your head a little to the right and to the left. Does it feel different than when you rolled your head this morning? And pause a moment. Please bend your left leg, stand your left foot. Bring your right hand on the floor, somewhere in the direction of your head. And very gently begin to, and leave your arm there, begin to press your left foot into the floor in a way that the movement travels upwards in the direction of your right hand. So you could even think that you wanted to have you had the intention of that the push from your foot could lengthen your left arm a little bit in the direction of the fingers, that your fingers are lying. Now, if your elbow is bent, that is going to absorb and change the movement slightly. So have your arm in the direction of above your head. It might even be 45 degrees out to the side, somewhere where you can really lie your arm comfortably and long. Long. So somewhere where your elbow can be on the ground. And your arm is softly straight in the direction of above your head. No, you're okay. And now gently press your left foot into the ground and feel how that movement passes through the bones of your leg into your left hip joint. How it starts to roll your pelvis and moves upwards through your spine, through your ribs somehow, in the direction of your right hand. But you're not stretching your right hand intentionally. You're just trying to see, can the movement reach there? Can it creep your hand along the floor a little bit? So right now, you're not trying to roll yourself onto your right side. But maybe you'll begin to feel, as you press your left foot into the floor, that the work done by your foot and your leg muscles can send motion upwards through your skeleton towards your right hand. And then you come back. You let go of the work of your left foot and your pelvis will return. You may feel your hand be pulled a little bit downwards towards yourself. In particular, pay attention how this movement passes from your center of you, through your ribs and your shoulder blade, towards your hand. Could you use this movement to get to know how your shoulder blade and ribs are relating to one another a little bit? So your left foot is standing, unless you're resting. If you're resting, then it's fine not to be standing. That's it. Can you leave your arm up there, Karen? Can you leave it up there? So you leave your arm there. Yeah, and then that's it. Okay. Now gradually begin to make that movement a little bit larger and come back. So you grow it. And you're going to grow it in the direction of lying on your right side. So that the pushing of the foot, the lifting of the hip joint starts to roll your pelvis more, and your left arm, it can hang behind. Maybe you'll even feel that moment where the turning of your torso scoops up your shoulder and pulls your arm along for the ride. And notice as you're doing this, where is your head in relationship to your right arm? Can rolling like this bring your head onto your arm? And sense what's happening through your upper ribs, your sternum. And then let yourself go all the way, that was good timing, onto your right side. So you actually lie on your right side now with your head on your arm or a little behind your arm, your knees, let your knees bend up so they're a right angle, so you don't need so much work to keep yourself balancing there. And you can have either your left hand on the floor in front of you or on your left hip, left side of your pelvis. But bend your hips a little bit. So you bring your knees forwards a little bit more. That's it. And rest there. And just notice maybe this is comfortable for you. Maybe it's a position you know well or that you don't know so well. Bring your hips to a right angle and your knees to a right angle. With your head resting, if it's comfortable, on your right arm, can you begin to roll yourself a little bit forwards, but your arm is long. Yeah. Roll yourself a little forwards and backwards. And let your head just rest on your arm. So your head's going to be quiet and get taken for a little ride. So maybe you could even put your left hand on the side of your neck, the left side of your neck, and just check that the musculature there can be soft. So that the action is being initiated from your pelvis and the muscles of your lower back and belly. So now begin to make the movement, if it's comfortable for you, a little larger so that your head can roll over your arm and your face comes towards the ceiling when you roll backwards a little bit. And then as you slide your left knee forwards, roll your pelvis forwards, it pulls your head a little bit. You can lift it if you need to, but it may just be able to be scooped up by the action and slide over your arm. Can your back of your hand be on the floor? It's that little bit of unnecessary effort. Okay, rest like this for a moment. Notice the orientation of your hand. Is your palm up or palm down? So if you can, if your head is not on your arm, can you bring your arm a little bit more upwards in the line of your spine so your head could rest on it? So come back to your side with your head resting on your arm again. Left hand on the floor in front of you or on the side of yourself. Begin to use your pelvis. Use yourself to roll your head a little bit forwards and backwards, feeling how that movement passes up through your spine to your head and begins to move your head a little forwards of your right arm, a little backwards of your right arm. You feel any turning in the long bones of your arm? So most people have their hands palm up. So as you roll yourself forwards, can you turn your arm so that your thumb goes more towards the ceiling and your little finger edge of your hand goes down towards the floor? And then as you roll back, turn your little finger edge of your hand up towards the ceiling. It doesn't need to be a large movement. I think you can clearly feel there's a turning through the bones of your arm, the forearm, maybe the upper arm, while you roll yourself forwards and backwards. And then try the opposite. So as you roll yourself forwards from your pelvis, initiating with the pelvis, that you turn your hand palm more upwards, and while you roll yourself backwards and your face looks to the ceiling, your palm turns downwards towards the floor. So your left hand stays somewhere. So it stays there or stays there. That's it. Yeah. Okay, got it. And you're really staying on your side, but you're rolling a little forwards and a little backwards in order to turn your head, turn yourself. So your head moves over your arm, behind your arm. And then a few more times, whichever combination feels easier for you. And just find out, is it possible to bring your head a little in front of your arm, to the floor in front of your arm? And stay there. Can you stay there, resting with your head in front of the arm? You may feel the armpit on the right side turn towards the floor. And then bend your elbow, bend your right elbow, and see, where does your hand land? So as much as possible, your head is in front of your arm. Is that possible for you, Roy? Just not turn necessarily, forwards. Can you go? Okay, yeah, it's hard, it's all right. But you're still there, good. Okay. Can you explore the left side of your face or the neck or wherever you can reach with your hand? And then keep, so your arm is behind your head. So your head is in front of your arm. Can you do that, Amanda? So bend your hips up a bit more again. And can you bring your head in front of your arm? Yeah, bring your...
Oh, I see.
There. And now bend. Yes. Yeah. And then it's hello. Okay. Can you make contact with the left side of your head with your right hand, holding your chin, your ear, your jaw, whatever you feel, and then roll yourself back onto your back. Legs long. And then can you roll back to your side again? And then when you've had enough, you can take your arm out from behind your head, lengthen your legs and rest a moment. So is that easy for you, Priscilla? Or not so easy? Just want to see if you can come to your side. And in the rest, can you take your elbow so it's... that's it. Now, you're much more around the left side. Behind your head. Now roll back.
Yeah, that was easier.
Did I say roll your head a little right or left? And rest. What's the quality of your resting like now? Could you please bend your right foot? Yes. Right foot. Stand it on the floor. Bring your left arm upwards on the floor in the direction of above your head. But you're not trying to put your hand on top of your head, but your arm is upwards relative to yourself. And if it's with the arm long, so you want to find the position between having your arm out to the side at shoulder height and keeping your arm long and on the floor, sliding it upwards in an arc as if it was to go above your head. And begin to explore, how is it on this side to push through into the floor with your right foot. But first of all, you're looking for the small movement, to find if you can feel it through your skeleton in a way that it lengthens your arm without actively, with the arm being passive. So there's a pathway through the center of yourself. It could be a little bit overgrown, but it has the potential to create a connection through the middle of yourself, which will enable you to engage yourself in different ways. So you be listening for the creep of the back of your hand on the floor. Your pelvis is rolling a little bit. You feel a changing contact between your ribs on the floor, on the left side and the right side. How the movement travels upwards through your spine in the direction of your shoulder blade. And how the chest can twist a little bit, perhaps. Change its shape so that the movement through you flows upwards and diagonally upwards towards your left hand. And gradually begin to make that movement larger, rolling more towards your left side. Moving to your left side in a way that eventually your knees could fold upwards and you could bring your head, if it's comfortable, to lie on your left arm, the left upper arm. And when you arrive on your side, rest there a moment. And just notice for yourself where, if you think of the line of your spine, as if you were standing, as if you were lying on your back, it has a direction. And if our head is more or less sitting above our spine, then the line of the spine would go out somewhere through the top of the head, your head. Where is your arm angled relative to that line of your spine? Maybe your head is angled forwards relative to the line of your spine. If it's comfortable for you, can you slide your arm a little bit backwards? Thinking of coming more as the line of your arm, as a continuation of the line of your spine as you're lying here. And then begin gently. Firstly, you could notice how different it is on this side. Is it more comfortable or less comfortable? So your arm is long. Your left arm is long underneath your head. Your knees and hips are bent up to a right angle now when you're lying on your left side. Right hand can be on the floor in front of you or on the right side of your pelvis. And begin to roll yourself, a small movement to begin with. So your pelvis moves a little forwards and backwards. And you probably feel your right knee slide a little forwards and backwards on your left knee. Can you follow that movement as it travels up through your spine, through your torso, and starts to roll your head being passive, a little bit on your left arm, forwards and backwards. Listening that the rolling of your head is being created from the movement of your pelvis and your lower torso. And then gradually begin to enlarge it a little bit as it gets more comfortable. Feeling how your ribs are involved on the right side of your chest and the left side of your chest. How your shoulder blade may be moving relative to your ribs, relative to your spine. And eventually drawing your head to roll over your arm in the backward direction so your face comes towards the ceiling. And then your pelvis rolls forwards. You feel the movement travel up through your spine, bringing the weight of your body forwards and pulling your head up and over, like rolling over a little speed hump, so that your head both turns and rolls forwards of your arm. Rest a minute on your side. Now, can you recall the other variation we did on the other side? We did something before we bent the hand, bent the elbow. We started to notice the turning in the arm. And we tried two different ways. One was rolling backwards and turning the palm up, rolling forwards, turning the palm down. So the instruction is for the hand, but how do you make it easier for your hand to turn? Can't turn without the turning in the forearm. If there's turning in your forearm, it's likely to evoke turning in your shoulder joint. And then try the opposite. Turning your palm up as you roll forwards, turning your palm down as you roll backwards. Can your head still be passive? It's like it's being taken for a ride over this, your arm. So you're constantly sensing whether you're stiffening your neck, stopping your head from sliding, or stopping your head from rolling. The next time your head comes in front of your arm and finds the floor there, can you rest there? And then bend your elbow, your left elbow. Find out here, can you take your left palm, come to the right side of your face. And then keeping hold of the right side of your face with your arm behind your head, slowly roll back onto your back. Feeling as your pelvis rolls. It can move your legs. Your legs can be moved through the changing angles of your hip joints and following the movement of the pelvis. And if you don't do anything that you know to be the usual doing of your legs, they will lengthen from this position. They will elongate. And then can you roll back onto the left side again? Keeping your left arm behind your head. And then back onto your back. Sensing your orientation. Feeling the timing of your movement in relationship to the floor, in relationship to the parts of yourself. And the changing self-organization as you go from your side to your back to your side. Next time you come onto your back, stay there. Let your arm, let go of your head. Please bring your right hand behind your head to hold on to the left side of your face, your cheek, your jaw. And just notice, how much of the movement do you do with the arm and how much do you do with your head? How much do you help your hand find the left side of your face through the turning of your head or the tilting of your head? Is it getting any easier? Keep your right hand there. Bring your left arm on the floor overhead. So overhead, you could think up. People still thinking over exactly above their head. But there's this big space that's overhead. What's another word? Got another word for overhead? No? Yeah. Just checking that I wasn't. So have your left arm long. Okay. Now, you can do this with your legs long. It's slightly more challenging, so we'll make it just a little easier. Can you bend your knees and stand your feet? Now, just think, when you come to sitting, you're going to be looking at the wall towards the toilets. But just think for a moment how you could sweep your left arm on the floor, keeping it in contact with the floor. That's the intention. May not be possible, but it guides where you move your left arm. That you sweep your left arm in a big arc on the floor to the right of you, to the right of you. That you feel how that might turn, we're just thinking, might roll you and direct your right elbow towards your knees. And your knees and your pelvis are going to assist your action so that you can continue sweeping your left arm on the floor, your right arm on right elbow close to the floor as long as possible till you come up to sitting or in the direction of sitting. So when you have some sort of image of that, begin to explore it. You can go a little and come back. Sense, feel, everything staying as low as possible. Sweeping your left arm on the floor above your head to the right. Did I say left? Sorry if I did, but it's to the right. So your head's moving to the right, your left arm is moving to the right, your knees will tilt to the right, and you'll fold, 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 sweep on the floor until you come back to that side sitting position. Maybe come up to that and then you erect yourself. It's not easy, you don't have to do it. So the next time you've been elongated, unfolded on your back, and you fold onto your right side and sweep yourself around to sit, can you keep going? Keep holding your head and go over to the left side and down the left side. onto your back, and then up the right side again. So you keep going in the same direction. When you get to sitting, you'll need to do something to switch your leg, to change your legs over. Your left hand continuously on the floor, sweeping in a big circle on the floor, sweeping, sweeping. And then when you come up to sitting, flip your legs, change your legs over. Keep sweeping with your left hand. Sweeping with your left hand on the floor. What size circle are you thinking of making with your left hand on the floor? Some people are keeping the circle really close to their pelvis, and other people are making this kind of a Leonardo da Vinci circle. Why do you laugh? There are physical possibilities within our structure as human beings, and we have endless capacities to restrict them. Endless. I too have been an expert on that. So really watch the quality of your coming up to sitting. Feel for those moments where you may want to push the ground or jerk yourself up. Now, it's okay to do that, especially if you know that you're doing it. You know that it's not quite available to your self-organization at the moment to change. But it's like you go, oh, there's something I can come back to. There's something I can explore more. And you begin to make distinctions about what is not possible to you. The part where your circle breaks down or your image breaks down. Rest on your back. Circles are going to be a bit of a theme for this segment. How many ways can we make circles? And what's the point of moving in a circle? What's the purpose? Pardon? Back. Yeah, it gets you back to the start. So this time, can you bring both of your arms on the floor overhead? Comfortably wide apart. Have you just done a lesson where you've looked at the 5 lines and made a big X shape? Familiar to anyone or not? No? Okay. Well, think that you were looking from above yourself and you wanted to make a letter X. Kind of a letter X. So your arms would be long, your hands would be above the height of your shoulders. We've got some good X's. We've got some Y's. Okay. Now think that you're going to sweep both of your arms on the floor to the right in a way that you could keep sweeping them and roll yourself in the direction of sitting. And then go back down to the right and elongate yourself on your back. Again. So both hands continuously in contact with the floor, sweeping firstly above your head, keeping on sweeping on the floor, keep sweeping, sweeping. And again, it's an interesting moment When the sweeping stops, what's happened through the middle of yourself? Feel how your pelvis can keep rolling in a continuous path. So even though you've got this guidance, a projected action for your hands, your pelvis is a key. And if your pelvis can move continuously, smoothly through a circular type trajectory, it will organize your limbs, organize your legs. Next time you're on your back, could you sweep your arms to the left and roll yourself up via your left side? So you keep everything as close to the floor as you can until a moment where it seems like you lift by yourself and you start to erect yourself. That's great. Okay, next time you're on your back, stay there. Notice how you sense yourself now. What question might you ask yourself? Or what question are you interested in about yourself that perhaps might be connected with this lesson and what you're feeling now? So most of you have begun to have experiences of asking questions of others. And as somebody was saying in the group I was in this morning, that once she had had a particular experience, I'm paraphrasing a tad, once she'd had a particular experience, it was much easier to guide someone else in their discovery of something. But if she hadn't had that experience, it was more challenging. Didn't feel it was quite possible. So your ability to ask yourself questions and to notice what the response is. Maybe there's no response sometimes. That's also fine. But how can you direct your attention to ask the questions that will give you information that will help you organize yourself in a more and more comfortable way? And to notice what changes along the way. Roll your head a little right and left if you haven't already. And then when you're ready, when that's interested you enough, you can slowly roll yourself to one side. Bring yourself up to sitting, up to standing. Just notice as you transition from the floor to sitting, from sitting to standing, are you still attending to yourself? Take a moment in standing, a fresh moment in standing. How do you arrive here? What are the impressions that come through your sensory motor experience that give you information about how you are now? Lighter or heavier? Taller or shorter? More even, less even, more one-sided, less one-sided? Whatever it is, you're breathing. You see what it's like now to lift your right arm towards the ceiling. Remember what it was like first thing this morning? And does ceiling have a certain direction for you? Like is ceiling above your head, or is ceiling got width, depth, distance? Is there any more detail in how you're involving yourself in this action now? What your ribs are doing, your spine. If you tried to inhabit your feet for a moment, could you tell from your feet which arm you're lifting? Of course, hopefully you're always inhabiting your feet, but it's a different way of thinking, attending. Okay, and then walk around and notice a little of yourself in your walking, and we'll take lunch. Jenny, you want to do announcements now or when we come back? Yep. And is it an hour? Yes? So we're going to come back at 3:22.